making my mouth water. Isn't that awesome? I love it. Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. I cannot believe that we are beginning season 6. It's just crazy when I think about what we've been doing over the last 5 years. I want to thank all of you for welcoming me into your home each week and for becoming part of this, for checking out the recipes online and just being part of our family. But I also want to welcome today 2 new markets. WWAY in Wilmington is part of our family. Hey out there, I'm so happy to have you join us. And then Wish TV in Indianapolis is also new to the VeryVera Show. So welcome to all of you, and I want you to certainly understand that we're going to have a lot of fun this season. So today we're going to get back to basics. We're going to go through some of the things that we are maybe a little rusty on or we haven't tried in a while. So I'm going to start with the homemade chicken stock, something I certainly go to for most of my recipes. You're going to be really happy that you have that on hand. Then we're going to do a simple bechamel sauce. It is so easy to make. You can put all different kinds of cheeses in it. So I'm going to do it today with a vegetable. And then finally, don't light that grill. We're going to put a T-bone steak in the cast iron skillet. So let's get started. Okay, we got a simple chicken stock. And you know, when I think about all of my recipes, I cook grits in chicken stock. All my soups have chicken stock. I use it in sauces. It's just one of those go-to things. And you look at all those cans in the pantry, and then I think, you know, all of you know how much I love the fresh market. And how many times have I gone to the fresh market to pick up a rotisserie chicken really quickly because I have no idea what I'm making for dinner. And then all the bones that are left at the end, I'm putting in the trash can. Well, no more. We're gonna put those bones in a stock pot. We're gonna cover that with water, and we're gonna let it simmer all day long. Basically, you're just cooking those bones and a little bit of the meat on the bones. And you know, this is part of what food is all about. Think of that smell. What do you think about when you smell something like that cooking in your house? It's all those wonderful family memories. You're back at Thanksgiving, you're with your family. It's just the most comforting aroma that you can have in your house. So don't burn a candle, make chicken stock. So we're gonna get started with that, and this has been simmering all day long. So I've had all those warm and cozy feelings all day. But now we're gonna put some other things in with it. I've had the best time all summer with my fresh herbs that I've grown, and so I have just a few things that I'm going to put together there. Some fresh parsley stems, because actually a lot of the flavor is in the stem. All right, and fresh thyme, of course. So I'm going to tie that up just with some of my kitchen twine. And then I've got carrots and celery. And the reason you're kind of tying this up is you don't want all that to get loose in the stock. So I'm going to put that in. And then I want to just do big chunks of my carrots and celery. And that's just going to, again, just be part of the flavor in this. And you know, you can keep celery fresh a lot longer if you'll put it down in some water if it starts to look like it's getting a little bit on the limp side. A Vidalia onion, and I'm just going to quarter that. All right. So here again, this just is going to keep cooking. And I love to have some of the meat in it, so don't clean the bones off, you know, tremendously, but you just covered it with enough water just to get that flavor, and I can just smell it. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt, a little bit more salt to it. And the rotisserie chicken, of course, was seasoned, so you got the extra advantage of the fact that there was some seasonings in that as well. A lot of cracked pepper. All right, so this is some that I did ahead. And just look how golden that is. I've got the onion has just, you know, kind of limped down, is good. You've got nice little chunks of onion. You could actually cut up some of those vegetables to go with it too. So what I'll do a lot of times is I'll let this cool down. I'll refrigerate it, and then it's really easy just to take a spoon and just skim any fat that you want to get off of that off. But just remember, when you're doing this sort of thing, the fat is actually where a lot of the flavor is. And it's not that much, and it'll add a little bit more flavor to the grits or the soup or whatever you're going to use that chicken stock in. So that's, you know, just another good tip there as well. Chicken stock freezes well. So we've got one basic out of the way, so come back with me in just a minute. We're gonna get started on that bechamel sauce, and also we're gonna transition into a cast iron steak. So come back with me. Hey, welcome back everybody, and that stock is simmering on the stove, and I know you all are thinking about that aroma because you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it is fantastic. So now we're taking what was already finished, what simmered all day yesterday and is ready to go. I'm just using a sieve here, a strainer, to get, you know, any bones that might be still in there, and of course the big hunks of vegetables. And this is where those Glad freezer containers come in so handy, because believe it or not, the thinner plastic containers will crack in your freezer. Or if you're like me, you're trying to dig in there looking for spaghetti sauce and a plastic container falls out and busts all open on the floor. So be sure to get those because they're made for the freezer. And then always label what you're doing, you know, chicken stock and the date on it, so that when you put it in the freezer, you know what it is, you know how long you've had it. So now I'm just gonna come over to my Sub-Zero freezer drawer, which I absolutely love because you can always find what you're looking for instead of digging all the way through. So I've really enjoyed having drawers for my freezer. All right, so now we're gonna get started on the bechamel sauce, which, you know I sound really fancy today saying that, but I've always called it white sauce. So I went ahead and got the butter melted. Now, this is the go-to sauce. This is the mother sauce, okay? So if you know how to make this, you can go crazy with it. You can do a more toasted sauce. There are all different kinds of things you can do. But you want to start, of course, with butter, not margarine. And I've got about 2 tablespoons in the pan. And then I've got just plain flour, and I'm going to add that to it. And this is where you just take your time. And a lot of people use a whisk, but I really love my wooden spoon. There's just something about just feeling that wooden spoon and just taking my time and stirring that around. So I will just, what we're trying to do here is just get the flour incorporated. Now, for it to be a true white sauce, I don't want it to be toasted. This is gonna stay that creamy color. But if I was doing something like a soup or, you know, maybe another sauce where the toasted flavor might be what you were looking for, you could get this to a nice golden brown. So now I'm gonna turn the heat up just a little bit, and I'll start gradually adding my whole milk. Now, some instructions will tell you to put it all in there and just stir. But I like to go slowly because it thickens as you go, and then you're not left with a lot of lumps. So I just kind of take it slow and easy on this. And you see how it's thickening up? I'll turn that heat back just a little bit. So, you know, on foods, I always like to think, when was the first time I ate something? When was the first time I experienced that particular dish? And for me, white sauce, I certainly remember it as a child that we always had ham on Sunday. And you can set your watch and count on by Thursday, my mom was gonna make what I knew as a white sauce, and she would put boiled eggs and ham, and then she would toast French bread and put that on top. So that was my introduction to white sauce. And it was years later that somebody's talking about making a white sauce, and I tasted it and I thought, oh my goodness, that's what I had as a child on top of toast. So you're just gonna take this slow and easy. And again, a white sauce is something that can also freeze very well. So today's interpretation of it is going to be putting on top of vegetables. You can add cheddar cheese, you can add regular cheese. So we're gonna serve this up in a few minutes. I'll keep working on it. But when we come back, you're gonna get to see in Vera's Corner today the 5 essential knives that you need to work with. So stay tuned. Today we're getting back to basics in the kitchen, and I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to introduce the 5 knives that are essential to have in your kitchen. A chef's knife is a large, versatile knife that can be used for deboning smaller portions of meat and for slicing, dicing, and chopping fruits and vegetables. A fillet knife is a sharp and slim knife used for filleting fish or trimming fat and skin from poultry and meat. A serrated utility knife is used for slicing bread, meats, or other foods with a hard crust or outer skin. It also works well for cutting juicy or soft vegetables. A paring knife is a small, versatile knife, perfect for detail work like peeling, trimming, and cutting small pieces of food. A cleaver is a large, heavy knife that comes in handy when more weight and less precision is needed, like when you need to cut through the bone in a piece of meat. Time to get chopping.
To see what's cooking with the VeryVera Show, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Welcome back, everybody. Did you learn a little something about knives just now? It makes me want to make sure all of mine are good and sharp, but hopefully keep that in mind. It's a great gift idea too. So during the break, I finished the sauce. I got a little Parmesan cheese in it, and so it's nice and creamy, ready to go. We're going to be serving that up shortly, but now we're ready to get started on the cast iron skillet steak. So, you know, there's one consistent thing that I've done in every season of the show. I've always cooked several times during the season in my Lodge cast iron skillet. So there's really nothing like it. You can get a great sear, whether it's a steak or a hamburger, a chicken breast. It's just a great piece of equipment to have in your kitchen. So what I've already gone ahead and done is I put a little bit of olive oil in the pan. You want to always make sure you've got a pot holder handy. I did burn myself really bad one time by not remembering that. So I've got the pan nice and hot, and I went to Fresh Market, got a T-bone steak. You're gonna look for something that's about 1 inch to 1.25 inches. Typical salt and pepper, there's nothing wrong with that. You're gonna really get that flavor of the beef in there, but I love Montreal seasoning. I know last season I talked a lot about Morton's Nature Season that I use a lot in cooking, but this is something I love to use a lot when I'm cooking beef, whether it's beef stroganoff. I use it in my hamburger patties. So just a nice coating, and you see how chunky it is. It's got lots of different things in it, but it's just a great seasoning for steak, Montreal seasoning. All right, so I've got this seasoned on both sides. So now I'm just gonna flip this bad boy right into that hot skillet. And what we wanna do here is we wanna get a good sear on both sides. So you're gonna go really like a couple of minutes, and you can really actually see when the steak is cooking, you'll start seeing it kind of brown up. If you want at this point to kind of slide it just a little bit, it will make sure that it's not going to stick at the end. Just kind of get that oil down in there. So when I'm looking for good cuts of beef, I always like to think about, you know, some really nice marbling in it. Again, the fat, just I talked about it earlier with the chicken stock, if you skim off the fat, you're taking away some of the flavor. So even if you're not going to eat that, you cut it off after it's cooked, It's just a really great flavor enhancer in meat. So good marbling is always good to look for. And you know, at the fresh market, the butcher is always very accommodating. If you don't see a steak as thick as you want it, just ask, you know, could you cut me one 1.5 inches or 1 3/4 inches? So, you know, don't hesitate to ask. That's one of the nice features of a smaller grocery store. One of the reasons why I love to shop at the fresh market is they're so accommodating to their customers. All right, so we're gonna flip this over. See, you've just got a nice, good crust on the outside. So once this is seared for a good bit, we're gonna put it into a 400-degree oven. It's gonna finish off in there. So here's where you're gonna decide what temperature you want your steak to be. Of course, I don't think it's a steak unless it's cooked medium rare. So in the 400-degree oven for another 5 minutes or so is about all you want. But I'm gonna top it with a couple of pieces of butter. It's just gonna add some more juiciness to it. There's nothing like that flavor to be incorporated as well. So I'm gonna maybe take this off just a little bit early to show you that. I'm gonna top it with a couple of pats of butter. And then again, remember that pot holder. And we're gonna just walk over to the stove, to the oven. We're just gonna sit that in. And again, for about 5 minutes to a medium rare. And one of the things that I love about this dish too is that you seared in it, you're cooking in the oven in it, and I may even serve in it today. So it's easy on the cleanup. So come back with me after the break. We're gonna lay out a beautiful presentation. We're gonna go over some buffet presentation tips, and we're gonna try some of this delicious food. So come back with me in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody. And you know, getting back to basics actually made me very comfortable in the kitchen today. The aromas have been great. I love these simple things that we don't think about and you kind of procrastinate that you don't want to take the time to do them, but then they come in so useful for certain dishes. So let's get started with that chicken stock that we made earlier. That's your very basic ingredient that you use in so many recipes. So my use of that today is with an asparagus side dish. So what I did was I took just some olive oil in a hot skillet. I broke the asparagus at the natural breaking point when you break that, just to get those tough ends off. And then I just let that roast really well in the pan, kind of sear it just for a few minutes. Put some salt and pepper on it, added a little bit of butter, and then I drenched it with some of that homemade chicken stock and covered it and just let that simmer. So you've got the flavor from the chicken stock that's gonna get incorporated into the asparagus, and then it just really gives it a different flavor and is just a great use of something that you made yourself. All right, then we also did a bechamel sauce today, and I always called that a white sauce growing up, but it was just a very creamy sauce. I added some Parmesan cheese to it, and now I've got cauliflower that I just steamed. We're gonna put that on that, and then finally the T-bone steak. Put that in the oven, seared it on both sides. When it went in the oven, I put a little butter on it. And as you can see, as that steak cooked, that butter is just oozing over the sides of it. It just looks fantastic. So now it's time to build the buffet. And I think this is where people get a little uncomfortable. How am I gonna keep everything hot? How is everything gonna come together all at once? So let's get started with the asparagus. Certainly that is something that can be served at room temperature. It is not necessarily has to be served hot. And I'm just gonna put this on a beautiful pottery platter. I had a flour container that has a frog in the middle, so I've stood the asparagus up. I've got my tent card that'll tell people what that is, and that's ready to go. Now my white sauce, I'm just gonna drizzle on the top of this cauliflower. Ooh, doesn't that look delicious? You know, and if you have any left over, it lasts for several days in the fridge. So that's ready to go, and you just want to put your spoon to the side. Now the T-bone steak. Man, that just looks incredible. All right, and I've got a slate platter. And so you could pile it up. This is a buffet for 4. You could have all the steaks piled up. You could just go ahead and slice it any way you want to do that. So that's ready to go. I've got some really cool plates. This is a copper tray that I've had for years, so instead of a tablecloth, I'm using metal as my cloth. Then I've got some napkins that look really well with that, and I chose a pewter napkin ring to kind of incorporate that metal look of this buffet today. So, how cool looking is this? I don't even need fresh flowers, but I have some beautiful flowers today from Greg Boulis at Charleston Street, and he actually incorporated mint and okra and all kinds of food into it. So for the recipes, go to VeryVera.com, and please come back and join us next week. I'm gonna be doing south of the border. You don't wanna miss it. And remember, no matter what you do, do it in good taste.